Hi, honey. Welcome back to our weekly date night. We're Mike and Jen, just navigating life, marriage, and type 1 diabetes together. All right, let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hi Honey Podcast. I'm really excited today because I have a very special guest. I found this person because I was just browsing along the interwebs, looking for other T1D women to follow, and then Nicole came up. So welcome none other than Nicole B has T1D. That's her handle, or Nicole Brown. But hello.
Hi! It's always nice to hear that the internet algorithms are working the way that you want them to.
I found so many incredible friends, people like you, and some other women that I talked to. It's like the bright side of the internet because, it can be dark, but the bright side of the internet is finding people like you, sunshiny people like yourself.
Yeah, I think the community is so great.
I would totally agree with that. I would love a quick intro about who you are, just a quick little snippet of who you are, not just diabetes, but outside of diabetes, because there's so much more to you than diabetes.
Yeah, there's a lot. I have a lot of hobbies. Okay, so hi, I'm Nicole. I've been diabetic for almost 5 years now. That will be my anniversary is in the beginning of April. I have 3 children. I'm married. I live in Minnesota. I've been here for like 20 years, but I was born and raised in Alaska. I am a full-time entrepreneur. I've had a knitwear business full-time since 2013. And then in the off season, I do some reselling as well. And then I also do a little bit of diabetic influencer work here and there to help pay the bills.
I love that. What's your diagnosis story? Because your story is a little different than, to me, what I see at least. You were diagnosed later in life after kids.
Yeah.
You're already living this full-blown life. So tell us a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, so December 2020, I had COVID and I was pretty sick. I wasn't hospitalized, but just sick in my bed for a couple weeks, I think. And after that, I thought I was better. And then in January, I got my first yeast infection, which I thought was kind of odd. I got the antibiotics for that, but things never really got fully better. And then all the classic T1D symptoms kind of started sneaking in. I was tired, I was thirsty, I started not being able to see. And I was kind of just explaining things away as well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And then the night before Easter, I was just in a bad way. I thought I had constant acid reflux every time I ate or drank anything, but they told me later at the hospital, my body was trying to throw up constantly. So I was in my bed, worst migraine of my life, very feebly trying to eat toast. And Greg, my husband, looked at me and he's like, I don't care what you say. I am taking you to the hospital tomorrow morning. And I wasn't going to go. I was like, no, it's Easter. My kids are expecting to have, this Easter experience. So I was going to just paste a smile on my face, put on a cute dress and go. But he took me in first thing in the morning. And I remember them asking me at the door, do you want to go to ER or to urgent care? And I told them, well, I'm not dying, so I can go to urgent care. And they had me pee in the cup, and then they were like, okay, let's go to urgent care now. So I think, it would have been my fasting sugar. So I think that was in the 400s. And my A1C, I think, was 14. So they put me in an ambulance and they took me to a much bigger hospital. And I was in urgent care for quite some time. And then they moved me into a regular room after that. So yeah, they called me a raisin. But yeah, I've had 3 boys. Yeah, I've had 3 boys. I've never had gestational diabetes. There's no type 1 diabetes in my family, but both my parents do have different autoimmunes. So
that is such a wild story and something you could never forget because it was Easter morning. It's a day 100%. You remember. I mean, you remember your diagnosis, but yeah, that's so how did your husband take it first? How did he take it? And then how did your boys take it?
Yeah, I mean, Greg is just a protector and a caretaker by nature. So one of the stories that I like to tell, so before diagnosis, cooking and baking from scratch was my hobby. It is again now, but after diagnosis and suddenly, it's already a lot of work and now I have to carb count on top of it. I felt exhausted. I didn't want anything to do with it. And Greg, who also worked in the restaurant industry for a little bit, he had this notebook and he was weighing each individual ingredient so he could add up all the carbs for me, and then he would text me, it's this many carbs, it's going to be ready in 15 minutes, so I had time to pre-bolus. And he did that with like pretty much every single thing that I ate for a good long while, until I felt like mentally in the space to be able. He still does it sometimes to this day, but we still have the notebook where he's like done all the math, and it's just a really special memory to me, and it just made me feel really, really loved and taken care of.
Ugh, oh my gosh, that I feel like I saw you share that one time, and I'm like, that's why we started this podcast. I know Mike's not on here today because our significant others are definitely such a huge part of what we deal with every day. Like we couldn't do it without their support. And like Greg grabbing a notebook and taking down every ingredient, that just speaks to who he is, first of
Yeah,
all. But
with a
that's
food
just
scale,
amazing.
like he's weighing everything out to make sure it's accurate. And yeah, it's just, and I
He,
think you are this way too, but like I am a person where like I don't like asking for help. I will white knuckle it to things and try to like do it all myself. So anytime that I don't have to ask for help and somebody already meets and anticipates my needs, it's like serious love language.
it's like your husband knows you or something,
I know, right?
I love that. But yeah, serious love language. I suck at asking for help. It'll be to the point where it's like I'm visibly stressed. I try to carry it on my own, and then Mike or whoever in my life in that area is like, "Wait, what do you need? Because you're not going to
Yeah,
ask me." Like,
right.
no, I can do it
Right. I got it. I got
until I
it.
burn
It's fine.
myself out. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That's
Yeah.
how everything goes. So, how did your kids take it though? Like, what ages were your kids at? Because I know the understanding it's kind of different for depending on the age they're at, but
Yeah.
how did you
What
explain it to them?
well, it would be almost 5 years ago. So my oldest is 19 and a half, and then my younger boys are 12 and 10 right now. So whatever that would have been 5 years ago. I suck at math. But I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
it was an adjustment. I remember in the beginning when I got home, I didn't have a Dexcom or anything like that right away. And so I felt nervous leaving the house with them by myself, which was hard because before that we would go on adventures all the time. But like, I didn't feel safe driving them around if I didn't know if I was going to have a low blood sugar or not. And when I first got home from the hospital, I couldn't even see because without my contacts, I can see clearly about here. So I couldn't like take them to school or anything like that because I couldn't see even to like read a book. So that was hard. But like, I don't know, my kids are great. They just understood that this is a new part of my life now. I think they were just glad that I was like home and okay. So they're just great. There was one day after like a few years after diagnosis where I thought it was going to be a really bad low. Like I had double arrows down, I had too much insulin on board, and I had all my stuff around me. But I came and got my oldest son. I'm like, hey, Greg wasn't home. I was like, just so you know, like this is what could happen. Here's my vaccine, this is what you need to do. And we just waited, and then 15 minutes later it was fine. And then like I don't know if you feel this way, but like I always feel so silly sometimes, or like a little foolish when I'm like, oh my God. And then you're like, it's nothing. So afterward, I said to
Yeah.
Tegan, I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry if I scared you. And he said, no, Mom. He says, I need to know about things like that. Please always come and get me about things like that. And I was like crying. I'm like, oh my God, you're such a good boy. Like, so just, I
Oh,
guess I just feel really grateful because I feel like from the get-go, I've just had so much support from everybody in my life, really, which again, as someone who does not like to ask for help means so much.
that's hard with diabetes, having the trait of not asking for help and then you have diabetes and you have to ask for help sometimes, especially if you have a low that happens out of nowhere. I don't know about you, but and I'm sure maybe this happened to you, especially beginning of diagnosis, but even still now, because it does for me. I will be like in a conversation, for example, and I can feel a low coming on, and I'm like, okay, how do I interrupt this conversation? Maybe that's not necessarily asking for help, but it is like, help me with stop talking so I can go take care of myself.
Yeah.
But I get anxiety about that still.
Yeah. No, me too. I never want to be the person that like ruins the good time. And my friends don't feel that way
Yeah.
at all. So sometimes I'll like try to hide it, which is so silly. And other times I'm just like, because my lows are sometimes I get like super emotional. Sometimes I just get like really silly. So now if I feel it and I feel comfortable with the group, like I generally like will like say something, but it's not first thing that I want to do. I just normally want to be like, I've said it anytime that I'm like super frustrated, I've expressed to Greg like, oh, I just want to be a normal person. And like diabetes is something that I'm like dragging along for the ride in my life, you know, like it's not center stage, just this annoying thing that's coming with me. But when it interrupts like the things that like I'm excited about doing, that's always when I get the crankiest.
I mean, it makes sense. And for you, you are not only are you active in the gym, but you're adventurous. You're an Enneagram 7. So you're like up for the party all the time. So that's the perfect description. It feels like you're dragging something along to keep up with you because you want to be on the go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're adventurous, you're active. Were you like that? I'm assuming before diabetes. And then what did that look like after diabetes and with diabetes?
Yeah, I've always been that way. I am also a super spontaneous person, and I would say I am still spontaneous now, especially now that I'm like almost 5 years in. But that was something in the beginning where I felt like it was kind of cramping my style a little bit because I'm like, now I have to like plan. I have to do all this front work here before I can even do this, you know? So that I think was a really big change for me. But on the other side, I was thinking about this the other day. When I was 5 months into diagnosis, I flew by myself on a plane to Alaska and went hiking up a mountain with my mom. So, so maybe it
Oh my
didn't like,
gosh.
yeah, but that's just
Did
me.
you
Like,
experience elevation lows? Did you get elevation lows?
you know, if I did, I probably didn't know what that was. I do remember I went snowboarding in Montana. I was probably maybe 2 years into diagnosis. And when we got to the top of the mountain, all of a sudden, like my sugar's like, and I wasn't eating anything or anything. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. So after that, I think I learned that like elevation can affect things. Mostly I just kind of go with the flow. I'm like, oh, okay, this is happening, do this. This is happening, do that. And just try to make the best of it.
What's so fun about you is I can totally see that just from how you are on social media. Another thing I love about your page is I can tell you're very much a like, this is what you get. You see what you get. I am me. I'm not changing. I love that about you. And
Yeah.
that's why you were a draw for me because I love the authenticity and you can read that on somebody's social media page. I know there's so much more to you than what we see on our screens, but I can tell you're very spontaneous. I can
Yes.
tell you're very fun, and, I wish I was more spontaneous.
Well,
I
we all have
I
different
my versions
personalities, right?
yeah, my version of spontaneous is probably hilarious to some because it's probably not at all, but but you know what? I can blame or maybe put that to being diagnosed at a young age, so I didn't have adult life that I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
apples and oranges.
No, I think there's so
Yeah,
many
because
good parts of everybody. My assistant, she's an Enneagram 6. And so we're a great match because I'll be like, oh my God, this idea is so exciting. And then she's like, have you thought about this, this, and this? And I'm like, that's never occurred to me, but it's good to think about it.
my roommate before I met Mike, we were roommates for 3 years. We were friends for years before that, but anyways, she's a 6 and I'm a 2. I was learning a lot about Enneagram around the time her and I first became friends. I know we're kind of going on a tangent, but she's what I love about 6s, and this is probably incredible as an assistant, they think through everything
Yes.
methodically and
Yes.
look at every possible like angle and scenario. So yeah, I love 6s.
Same.
Has diabetes made you push even harder when it comes to like, let's talk about your fitness specifically, because I think that could have been one of the first things I found about you. You clearly push yourself really hard in the gym. And what I like, you shared something recently, I think, where you said, I have fun with it. If I'm not having fun with it, like I'm going to change it up. I'm paraphrasing, but if I'm not
Yeah.
having fun with it, I'm going to do something different. So you have fun, but also you're disciplined. Did diabetes change that at all for you, good or bad?
I mean, I think I've always been kind of an all or nothing person and I've always been pretty stubborn, but I think that there is such a motivation when you are seeing like in real time the effects that your choices have on your body. So we can take, for example, last week I was sick. So I took the week off the gym to heal, which I think was the right choice. But now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I am a lot more like insulin resistant, or like I need to like change my ratios a little bit because suddenly I'm eating and I'm having these spikes, you know? So for me, that's like, okay, I want to get back in there and like really like give my body what it's wanting kind of thing. But yes, being an Enneagram 7, it always has to be fun for me. I'm always doing the pleasure seeking, right? If it's getting boring, then I will look for a way to make it fun again, because it's hard for me to do things that like I don't want to do, I guess.
I relate to that so, so much. For a handful of years, gosh, I'm not going to try to do math right now, same as you, it's math, meh.
Yeah.
But for a handful of years, I did group fitness and I was kind of murdering my body. When I met Mike, he was like, "What are you doing?" The more he got to know me and know like what I like and don't like, he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm a community driven person.
Oh yeah.
And if anybody knows me, they know that. So that's why I was going to this group fitness. The
The
people, and still
social.
to this day, they're incredible. Yeah, but I was killing my body. So, anyways, I started just going to like just a crunch gym. I would get bored really quick. So, what I've noticed with myself is I have to start like a new split. Like every 6 to 8 weeks, I start something new. I set some sort of goal. I really want Carrie Underwood legs right now. So, I don't love working out lower body. I don't know if that makes me a weird female. It's not my
Yeah.
favorite, but it's become my favorite because I wanted that new, like, what's fun because I'm getting bored. So,
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
something fun and exciting and do that. And I love that. But when it comes to weightlifting and diabetes, it can be tricky, or at least for me, has been so, so tricky of like, what does your blood sugar need to be before? What do you pay to? I never really figured it out, to be honest, Nicole. Like when I was using Omnipod, um, or when I was in injections, which is so long ago, I did not know when to give insulin. I had a coach at one point in time, a type 1 diabetes coach, and he kind of taught me like take a unit of insulin during your workout. But you have to remember that. And so if I forgot, I would spike. I always spike from lifting for some crazy reason.
Always, like no
I
matter
don't
the
even know
time
why,
of
but
day. You spike
no
no matter
matter
what
the
time.
time of day.
Interesting.
Well, when I was doing the group fitness, which is very high intensity type of workouts, and there is of course like strength training in it, but there's a lot of cardio.
Yeah. They have those
If I
classes
went
at
in
my
the
gym too. They look
evening,
terrible.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But if I did those in the evening, now that you say it, no matter the time of day, I'm a very much morning person. But if I went in the evening from having insulin in my system all day and eating, I
Yeah.
would probably see drops.
Yeah.
At the same time, it was probably because I was dosing insulin, anticipating a high, but it was the evening, and I would
Mm-hmm.
have the worst drops. I used to coach classes, the group fitness classes, and there would be certain people. There was like a little nutrition shop inside of the gym. They would have honey just ready for me because they would know. So I'd be on the microphone coaching a class. Meanwhile, down arrow 60,
Oh my God.
50, like oh
Ugh.
my gosh, those were, talk about moment you don't know what to ask, when to ask for help. You're trying to
Yeah.
pump up a class and coach
Yeah.
them, and you're literally chugging honey out of like a little side dish. Just, I don't miss those days. But
That's
anyways,
wild.
that's a random tangent. But yeah, diabetes and fitness, it's a love hate because like you said, it helps with insulin resistance, but also it can be a little bit tricky until you figure out your rhythm. Everyone's body is different, but it can be a little
Yeah.
tricky trying to
Yeah.
figure it out.
I'm a like kind of a big, I love like a puzzle. I love like a problem solver thing. So like I don't get it right every time, but when I first started, I just picked like, okay, I'm gonna pick afternoon to work out, and I would try to go the same time every day and just watch the patterns of what my sugars did until I felt like I had that time figured out. And then I would go to like morning or evening and just see all the differences. Morning, I think, is the hardest time to lift weights for me with having spikes. I used to do AM fasted for like a good solid year just because it was easy. But I don't like working out on an empty stomach anymore.
Mhm.
So now I just know like if I do it, I am going to need to have a really good, strong pre bolus for whatever I eat beforehand. And then I'm probably going to do a couple corrections and end with a walk in the AM. And then I'm usually leaving fine. But I definitely go up higher than like I would like afternoon, evening. Sometimes I have to eat a little bit during the middle of it.
Speaking of not being on an empty stomach, something else I love about your account, and you started sharing this more recently in the last handful of months because you went back to this style of eating. My time frame could be off, but you eat a plant-based diet, and your meals are beautiful and colorful. And I wish I had I hate cooking. I really do.
Yeah.
But I wish I had the motivation because I see the things you share and I'm like, my goodness, that looks so good. But share about your eating style and how that's helped you. And something really interesting, you eat very high carb and you've actually seen that you need less insulin. I want to hear all about it.
I was primarily raised by vegans. So I've been vegan or vegetarian a majority of my life. And for me, like there's been times in my life where I've tried to eat meat or seafood. I just don't like it. I started doing it again when I was strength training because I noticed before that I felt like I was doing so much supplementation with processed foods. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do that either. So I'll just start eating meat and I'll probably just get used to it. And I was very much looking for ways to stop eating meat and still get enough protein because I did not get used to it. I think I came across like some vegan bodybuilders on YouTube and I was like, well, how are they accomplishing this? And they are getting their protein through plants, but to reach those higher proteins, it's a lot of carbs. And so instinctively, I kind of rejected it. I'm like, well, I can't do that. I'll be spiking all the time. And then simultaneously, I had an endo. I'm not with her anymore. She has always been on me about going on a statin when I turned 40, even though I don't have high LDL cholesterol. So I felt like the more I was like, hey, I'm not really interested in doing that unless we see this number creep up, the kind of more she dug in her heels about it. And so my last appointment, I think my LDL was 83. And she was like, well, the new recommendation is under 70. And that is true. So me being the person that I am saw it as a challenge. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to take out like all the saturated fat from my diet and just see what happens next appointment. You know, it's like a little experiment. There's other factors that contribute to cholesterol. So maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but that'll be fun to like find out. So I've been doing that ever since. And then I did not know this would happen. What I was noticing as I was doing that is suddenly I was having lows, lows, lows. And I'm like, what the heck? And so my ratios at the time had been the same for years and years. I started decreasing, decreasing, decreasing. And I'm noticing a lot of days my graph just getting flatter and flatter and flatter. But I'm eating like 90 carbs for lunch, breakfast, dinner, above. I didn't know that would happen, but that's where I'm at. Because before, I'd say my ratio is like I had like a 1 to 5 for breakfast and a 1 to 8 for lunch and dinner on Omnipod 5, which I'm still on. And I think currently I'm just coming out of being sick, so I raised them up a little bit. But I think I do a 1 to 13, no, 1 to like 11 for breakfast, a 1 to 13 or 14 for lunch, and a 1 to 18 for dinner. And so,
Wow, 1 to
yeah,
18 for dinner.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which is less than they had me doing, I think, when they first set me up with like MDI out of the hospitals. I didn't know that would be a thing. Since then I've read like some books that people have recommended to me, and I guess it is a thing that like some diabetics do and have success with, but that wasn't my reason for doing it. So it was just kind of like, oh, well, this is cool. Like, so now when I talk
It was
about
like
it,
a
it's
cherry on top.
yeah, 100%, 100%. So now when I talk about it, I just want to be always so careful to be like, hey, I'm not saying this is what everybody should do. For me, it just brings me so much joy because this is how I was eating before diabetes. And I didn't think this was an easy option for me anymore because even when I was in the ER, the doctor said, hey, I'm pretty sure you're type 1 diabetic because I was 37, so they weren't sure which one it was. He's like, if you like eating bacon, you'll be fine. If you like eating potatoes, not so much. And Greg shouted out in the room, he's like, potatoes are her favorite food.
Oh my gosh.
I talk about it a lot because I want people to know it's an option, because I did not know it was an option. On my algorithm, it was everybody watching their carbs, trying to try out new low carb things that are marketed to us. And, I had realized that in my brain, I kind of had this like carb number that, oh, well, if I eat over this, it's going to be a bad time for me. And so once I started doing this, that number went away, and it felt really freeing.
Yeah, that was the word that came to my mind, was freedom. Like, you got the freedom back. Well, one, this was how you enjoyed living your life pre-diagnosis. And then you discovered your way back there after diagnosis, which I love so much. Because, like you're saying, everyone has their different style of eating. But I will say, the saturated fats, no matter what you do or don't like, I mean, you are going to see an increase in blood sugar, right? Because, like, the thing that so many diabetics always reference in like difficulty is pizza. And there's a reason
Yes.
for that.
Yes.
Because of all the fats and things that are in it. Mike and I are actually oddly enough, we're kind of in this, I don't even know what word to use, limbo of trying to figure out how we want to eat. I was vegan for a year, and I don't think I'll go back, but never say never. The reason for me, actually, that I went vegan, my really good friend at the time, this was, gosh, years ago, maybe almost 10 years ago, she found a popular Netflix documentary, and we watched it, and she worked at a place that was right next to our gym. So I went and did a evening workout, and she's like, "Hey, I get off work at this time. Do you want to watch this documentary with me? I really want you to watch it." She's a very caring friend and
Okay.
just wanted me to see this and thought it would impact me. So I get done at the gym. I have my meal prep with me, and it
Oh
was the
gosh.
classic like ground meat, carb, vegetable fat, whatever. I'm eating my ground meat and I'm watching this documentary, and I just start weeping.
Oh god.
And it wasn't
I get
about
it.
the animal, by the way. That's not why I started crying. I started crying because at this point in my life, I had lived with diabetes for a long time. I'm not going to do math either. I've been living with diabetes for over a decade at this point, and they were talking about how much things happen in your body from this, and that. And so, anyways, I was eating my meal prep. I put the fork down. I could not eat it anymore. And the very next day I went vegan. I'm kind of an extremist. When I make my mind up on something, I go full force. And
Yeah,
so,
same.
I very next day went vegan. I did that for a year, but I did it. I don't want to say there's a right or wrong way, but I just, in my head, it was just like, stay away from anything that is animal product. So I ate
Mm,
anything and everything I could. I had so much fun with it. This is common from some of the like stuff that I saw, but when people first become vegan, they maybe try to find all the fun foods. I gained a
oh
lot
yeah.
of weight
You can be a junk food
because I
vegan.
didn't
That's a term.
necessarily.
That's why
Yes.
I say whole
Okay,
food
I
plant
I
based.
was a junk food.
Yeah, because
Yes, I was a
Oreos are
junk food
vegan.
vegan.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I discovered that. I was a junk food vegan. I was getting the dairy-free pints of ice cream. I was a binge eater at this time, which that's a whole nother journey and story for another day. So you had a combination of my bad eating habits plus a new vegan, but I did that for a year. Then I discovered something called Mastering Diabetes. I feel like maybe you had to have heard of them by now, but
So
maybe
I
not.
heard of it after, when I started talking on social media, being like, oh my God, my insulin ratios are suddenly decreasing. Someone's like, oh, have you read Mastering Diabetes? And I, at the time, had thought it was just a book for type 2 diabetics. So I was like, no, I haven't. And so then, yes, after I read that, and I like the breakdown of how they talk about like our cells, what's happening with our cells. But there's some other things where I don't agree with what they say, but it was still an interesting and good read.
Yeah, so I started following those two guys that started Mastering Diabetes, and I don't remember how long this lasted, but I did do the Whole Foods plant-based for a while, and I wasn't even eating a lot of warm foods. I was eating a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, and that didn't last very long, but I will say my insulin resistance, like I was taking a lot less insulin. I was just seeing a lot more lows. So all that to say, when you were sharing your stuff, I kind of went back in the day to my journey and said, oh, I can see how she's taking less insulin and all that because the Whole Foods and all the things. I just think it's really cool because if there are other people out there that are diagnosed with diabetes and they find someone like you that says, hey, I know the typical doctor answer is low carb. and you see all these things marketed and advertised on social media. I will say something, this is a side note. I've had a couple of brands, want to send me stuff that they market towards diabetes because it's low in sugar. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very strategic. I'm sure nobody even notices, but me and Mike talk about it. I'm very strategic. If I do share them and talk about it, I do not say, and you will not hear me say, this is made for diabetics,
Mm.
because anybody can have it. I will just say the fact. This has this much sugar. This has this much net carbs. I really like it. And there was a brand I shared where I said, I am taking insulin for this because I noticed, and not to go on a complete tangent, but I did notice some people say like, oh, this is made for diabetics. Oh, I don't have to take insulin for this. I'm like, that's
Ooh.
not true. It might be for
Yeah.
you, but not for everybody. So
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong way necessarily to diabetes. It's just like what works for you. And
Yes.
if it works for you, why not share it? Because it could help so many others to freedom as well that love
Yes.
to eat that way. That's what I love about you sharing your journey and all of that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my biggest thing because I get a lot of pushback about it, especially on like Facebook or YouTube. Or the assumption is, oh well, how much insulin are you taking to be able to maintain these levels? And I really dislike that because for me, like, that's not the point. Like, yes, I do take less insulin now, but above and beyond all that, I feel happy with how I'm eating. So the amount of insulin really shouldn't matter, especially to someone else. It doesn't affect them at all. But I think because people have their mindset of like, well, I could never do that, or I would have to do this to be able to do that, they want to like poke a hole in it somehow. And I'm over here being like, if you love to eat low carb, if you love to eat chicken at every meal or whatever, like if that makes you happy, I'm happy for you. I'm just sharing my journey so people know like if you don't, you don't have to do that.
Some people take things to the extreme, but and also all of our insulin needs are so different. There could be the next girl right next to you eating the exact same way as you and taking completely
Yeah.
different like so much more insulin than you or
Yeah. And
whatever. Like it's all different for us.
that's why I wanted to make sure I shared the other day when I was coming back from sickness. I was showing my graph being like this because I don't want to show flatline graphs all the time and being like, okay, clearly I'm a little bit more insulin resistant. It's time to up the ratios. Like it's just data. It doesn't have to be emotionally tied.
Yes, I agree. It is definitely just data. I recently switched my insulin pumps, and so I'm gathering new data right now. I'm just a student of my body and this insulin pump. And I've had like great results in the morning when I wake up with my blood sugars, but during the day, I'm still trying to figure out everything. And
Yeah.
it's a lot. It really is just data. Like our bodies are changing, or we change devices or types of insulin or time of day. I mean, literally everything that affects our blood sugar, which is just breathing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it really is just data.
I feel like when I see you share your stuff with the twist too, it seems like you get so much data. And I'm just like, wow, like I don't even know, like I know what it means, but at the same time I'm like looking at it all and like this is so much more involved. Like I feel like I would probably like that because I am a data person, but I'm just like, dang, like it's just cool to see a different kind of pump.
It is very data driven. I learn a lot from Arnie. I started the twist and I didn't know anybody else who was on it. Anybody that at least like shares, diabetes
Yeah.
on social media. I didn't know anybody else on it. Fast forward, I'm back on it again. And I'm like, okay, somebody that's like sharing more, like, I want to be a student and teach me. But you were talking about earlier, you said something about how you tried something for a certain amount of time and you were just testing with your workout schedule. And that's kind of something I've more so paid a little bit more attention to in the last couple of years. But even then, I'll be honest with you, I get so overwhelmed. I'm very, I admire and I'm impressed by people like you who are like, okay, let me do this same thing and watch the patterns and rhythms. I feel like I'm just hanging on by a thread sometimes, especially these days. I'm just busy and I'm like, I don't even want to think
Yeah.
about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, when you can look at the data and look at I don't know how I did MDI, to be honest with you, for
Dude,
as long as
MDI
I
is
did.
wild. I have another story about that when
I
I
mean, I
was
get
newly
it.
diagnosed because I like never want diabetes to hold me back. My friend and I went to this like huge waffle ice cream shop. Like it was like overindulgent. And I got this big thing. And I had asked this like Facebook diabetes group, I'm like, how should I bolus for this? Not like knowing. And they were like shaming me. I just shot like, I swear, like 10 units of MDI straight into my arm and then ate the ice cream. And I think back
Did
on
you
it
go
now and I'm
low?
like, well, I'm glad I'm still alive.
Did you go low?
No, actually it ended really well. We did a little walk afterward and then we had a yoga class at the zoo we were doing that evening. So actually it turned out fine, which was really lucky because I
Wow.
don't know that I would take that approach now.
I did MDI. I did a pump for a year or two when I was 19. And then I didn't do a pump again until 2020 or 2021. I basically was MDI for like 15 years, give or take.
Wow.
I literally don't know how I did it. But
Yeah.
if you look back at all of my my records, I didn't do it. I barely did it.
Yeah.
My A1C was so high, Nicole. I literally do not know how I even survived because I was just guessing all the time. I was just kind of like you. I'm like, I'm gonna eat this. Let me just shoot up 10 units. That was me. I was just
Yeah.
constantly just shooting up, like putting it in my purse. Oh wait, no, maybe I should take 2 more units. Just guessing.
I just am, again, that spontaneous person. So I had a really hard time with MDI because I would put, half my basil in the morning, but then I'm like telling my kids, I'm like, oh, let's go to the pool and go swimming. And then I'm out of the pool half the time because I'm just going low, low, low because that basil is just there now. For me, that was definitely motivation to get a pump where I had more control over those settings.
How long did you do MDI for?
Not that long. I think I was able to get an insulin pump maybe 3 months after diagnosis. It was something that I was pushing for pretty fast right away. I knew it was something that I wanted. And I got a Dexcom really early on too. I think I was only without that for maybe a few weeks, I think. I will say, because I've heard a lot of stories, that I consider myself very fortunate because I had a great care team at the hospital from day one. Like I had a diabetic educator that was also a T1D with me when I was in the ER.
Wow.
And she gave me her cell phone number and was like, call me any questions, whatever you have. And then I was able to get an endo, I think, within the next month, and who was also a type 1 diabetic at the time. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
but I've heard so many stories of
That is
adults,
crazy.
especially, that are just kind of like handed some insulin and being like, good luck, so it's like, God, that's terrifying.
It is so terrible. I don't even know who it was recently where they shared their story, but it was basically that they got diagnosed, they were sent home, they say, "What do I do?" I'm paraphrasing, but basically they were like, "You just figure it out."
Yeah. Yeah. Because,
That's why so many people run to social media.
yeah, 100%. Because when I was getting released from the hospital, I had this one doctor come in and he was like, take 15 units of Lantus in the morning and then 15 units at night. And my diabetic educator came in the room after him and she goes, please don't do that. She's like, that's way too much insulin to start out when you don't even know like where you are yet. So like she like saved me. So it's wild, right?
Wow. They're just like, "Let me guess.
Yeah.
15 sounds about right. Like,
Yeah.
let's just do that."
30 units of
That is
Lantus for a
so
brand new
crazy.
diabetic. And maybe that would work for some people, but it's just like, okay. And I would have had
Oh
no
my
idea.
I was on Lantus, for a long time. I don't think I ever even took 30. Like my entire and this is when I had uncontrolled diabetes too. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so
Having
especially for a newly diagnosed.
newly diagnosed, thin as hell because I was losing all the weight and no idea like what my lifestyle was like at all. It's wild now to think back upon that. You don't know what you don't know.
Man, you really don't. When I was diagnosed, I don't remember much, and I'm gonna do a refresh of my memory soon because my sister is gonna do a podcast with me. She remembers
Nice.
everything.
Oh,
But
that's fun.
anyways, long story short, my endocrinologist scared me. So I'm 9 years old, and looking back now, I can picture his face and stuff. He was just a sweet old man, but he was like 6'4", old, and so he scared me for some reason. He was like slender, just very calm in his tone, but again, looking back I can say that, but as a kid I was terrified of him. And then I had a couple, a husband and wife, duo of diabetes educators, and the husband had type 1 diabetes. I don't remember much, but I do remember that. So it is cool whenever somebody around when you're newly diagnosed says, "Hey, I live with this too." So,
Yeah.
and you just want to listen, you're prone to listen to them a little bit more because you're like, okay,
Oh,
so you
yeah.
get it.
Yeah, and I feel like they're just like a little bit more chill too. Like I don't have her anymore, but my endo would be like, "Oh, like you were a little bit high on this day," but like just mostly like she gets it. Like it just happens sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
have her
just
anymore. She left the
life.
practice, so my next endo won't be a diabetic. So we'll have to see what that's like. I'm excited to find out.
Oh, this is recent news.
Yeah, yeah. So my next appointment with this new endo is going to be in April.
Oh, wow, that's coming up. I'm gonna be asking you about that. I'll be intrigued to
Yeah,
hear
me
about it.
too. Me too.
My endo is not a diabetic, but she is incredible. It would be nice to find a type 1 diabetic, but I feel lucky to have found, the one that I have now. So,
Yeah.
they're like a tiny piece of the puzzle, but it still matters. To close out, I want to kind of talk about like your businesses because I'm super intrigued. I don't know a whole lot about them. I
Yeah.
think when I did discover them, I followed your pages. Um, I love your style. You
Thank
are
you.
so quirky and so fun, and and then I saw like your pages. So you knit, you resell, you thrift, all the
Yeah. Yeah.
things that I love, I think is awesome. But tell me about that. How long have you been doing that?
Okay, so my knitwear business is called Nikki Chicky. Um, I worked in an office job. I was bored. I decided to learn to knit. I loved it. After like my family and I had like everything that we could ever need, I didn't want to stop. And so I started just knitting and like putting things up on Etsy, and it took off like right away to the point where I actually got in trouble at my office job for doing too much knitting and not enough work. So I stopped. I closed it down. And then I had my second son, and a majority of my paychecks were going to pay for two kids in daycare. And I was like, I don't want to live my life like that. So I decided to leave my job. I was a stay at home mom, but we are not a one income family. So I'm like, I wonder if I open Nikki Chicky back up and really put my all into it, how big I can really grow it. And that was 2013. And today, we have a standalone website. I have employees mostly in the Midwest, but a couple different places in the US. And we're stocked nationwide at independent retailers. We've been in a department store once, but I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it again. It's been pretty amazing to see like what kind of things can happen.
You inspire me in so many more ways than one, and that's just one little piece of it. But tell us where we can find you then, not only your diabetic page, but all of the places that we can find you. And if anybody wants to shop your store, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we just have a standalone website. It's nikkichicky.com. And then I have an Instagram page for Nikki Chicky as well, which that's just what it's called. I don't share a lot on my diabetic page about the other things that I do just because I never know how interested people are. I never want to feel like I'm spamming people. And a lot of times I feel like on my diabetic page, they're just there for diabetes, which I also feel like
Yeah.
sometimes I forget to talk about. Because my life, like I literally do just feel like I am living my life and diabetes is along for the ride. Like it's not controlling me for the most part. So if I have decent days, which since I've been eating the way I have, most days are decent, I'm like, oh yeah, I bet people like actually do like want to see like my charts or what my blood sugar is or whatever, or like what I did to talk about this, but sometimes I forget. Oh, and then the other thing, the reselling thing, do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so with that along, so when you have a small business, you tend to get very much into like supporting other small businesses and sustainability and all that jazz. I have been a thrifter for a long time. I love feeling like I'm getting something for nothing, especially when it's high quality or costs a lot.
Same.
Yeah, yeah. So I would go out thrifting and I would see all these amazing things, but they weren't my size. And I was just thinking, oh, well, I'll leave them for the next person to find. And then I read this article, I think it was in like the New York Times or something that said, I hope I don't quote this wrong. I think it said like 85% or 87% of things in a thrift store still end up in a landfill. And that was wild to me. So after that, I'm like, oh, the next person might never come, actually. And so I started picking things up that I knew had value, that I knew people would like, because I have always had a passion for fashion. Granted, right now I'm about to go on a bike ride, so it probably doesn't appear that way. So I started reselling them and making a profit that way. And then from there, I learned about the outlets, like Goodwill Outlet. And this is a place, if you're not familiar, where it's literally like a last chance before things are sent to a landfill or before they're sent overseas, which is same difference. And
Wow.
you can get a pound of clothes for like $1.39. And the things that people throw out that you find there, I found Gucci there, I found Christian Dior, I found Burberry, I found Fendi. It's wild. And
Wow.
they're not trashed. Like, they're fine condition. And so once I learned about that place, it gets really addictive to go there. You have to dig because it's just in bins, but the hunt becomes pretty fun. And it just feels really good to know that you are taking something and finding it a new home, and then obviously getting paid for your time, because it is work to dig, to clean, to photograph, any repairs you need to do, to ship. So yeah, it's like Nikki Chicky is the one that's my business, and the reselling is the one for me that just brings me, like, I mean, they both bring me joy, but it's like my fun, little thing that I look
Yeah.
forward to after like all the work of the knitting season kind of comes to a close.
I love thrifting. I'm not even near on your level, but I do love thrifting. We found a Ralph Lauren jacket last night and I was so over the moon because there was nothing wrong with it. And it was
Nice.
$6 and something. And I'm pretty sure we got it on the tag sale too. Regardless,
Yeah.
it was authentic. And I'm like, we're taking this. It was Mike's size, but I'm like, I can make it cute too. We can both wear
Yeah.
it. It's great. Let's take it home. But
Yeah.
one of our biggest goals, Mike and I's biggest goals in starting this podcast, and kind of I'm slowly trying to, I don't know what I'm trying to do on my social media page. It's not just diabetes. Diabetes is along for the ride of our lives, but we are
Mhm.
still us. So I love to share about your knitting business, your thrifting, like, and your type 1 diabetes page. For anyone that just wants diabetes, like, go follow that. But if you also are a human that loves clothes or loves knitwear or whatever, like, there it is. So I love that, and I definitely want to share it, and I'm glad that you share sometimes, and some of us found it. So
Yeah, sometimes I try to, like, especially the button now where like you can share it from different accounts. If I feel like it's something that's like more interesting and relevant, I'll try to share it across or whatever onto stories or stuff. The other one is called See Nicole Thrift. That's that one.
I'm going to link everything in the show notes so people can click on what they want. Any last words of encouragement or anything before you go on your bike ride?
Yeah, I would say since I've been in the community, I think because it's not my personality type, that I notice a lot of people having like fear about like what could happen. And so they want to know, I get a lot of questions like, well, how do you do this? And I'm happy to share how I do it, but the only reasons I know those things is because I took that chance. And I think I would just say, obviously be careful, but also have the confidence to know that you know what to do to handle yourself in situations. You know that you have your low snacks there. You know, if you go high, maybe you can go for a walk or whatever. So it's okay to not get it correct all the time. It doesn't, again, have to be emotional. It can just be a learning experience that you can try for next time. So I would say, like, just try things out. Don't be so scared about what could happen when you haven't even taken the chance yet.
I love that so much. I love that about you, and I'll take that dose of advice for myself. Thank you so much for taking time on your Saturday morning to chat with me, to chat with us, and just share. I just think you're incredible. I adore you so much, and
I adore you too.
I
I'm
hope we
really
get to
glad
do
we
this
found each
again
other.
too.
Yeah, this was so much fun, honestly. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for joining our weekly date night. Let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments, and make sure you're following along for more episodes like this. Until then, we'll see you next week.